Hello, and this is a case study of a school observation. I'm Kat Lee. I'm an RDI program certified consultant. I have been a consultant for over 20 years, and we are going to visit about a case I have been with for 17 years. So the child was 2 when I first met with the family. The family has had many people on the team with their child, occupational therapists, aides, uh, language therapists, speech therapists, many different people have been with their child over the years. And I've had the opportunity to view the student in the classroom from his early years, from around 4 years old through 19, when his school ended. I was able to have the opportunity to be in the classroom one way or another. What we're going to do is we're going to look at one obstacle he encountered over the years when in school and how we handled it based on our collected data, video we had, and reports from the staff. We will look at specific incidents where video assisted us. We'll be talking about the use of video and teamwork when solving obstacles for children in the classroom. And we'll just be using one specific incident over his whole life in the classroom. I want to talk a little bit about the student. He started with an aide in the room near him. I'll fade this fairly quickly. An aide could be out of the room. Aides were in the room sometimes, but removed from the student, and other times working at the desk with the student. It depended on the class he was in and if he could do the work. Aides came and went from the classroom. Sometimes they weren't in the classroom at all, to give him that personal agency of being on his own. Through video review and reports, we were able to make good decisions for him on when aides needed to be in the room, when they needed to be right next to him, and when they needed to be out of the room. So this was his entire time he spent in school. We had these systems in place. Now, all the aides with this child, and there were different aides, went through some level of relationship development intervention training to understand our principles, to understand the work the parents had done with this child and those principles, and how those principles applied to the classroom and the classroom environment. Some key information about our student: he's always operated in the class well. He came to be able to sit quietly and listen. Over time, he could not do age level work some of the time in the classroom, so he was given other assignments during the work time that were appropriate for him. Thus, sometimes the aides needed to be there, sometimes they could be out of the room. Over the years, the student became more conversational, but that took a lot of time, and sometimes he lacks understanding. He also doesn't recognize, and this has been an ongoing issue, when he's being made fun of or when he's being disrespected. This student loves and he's eager to be a part. He really wants to live life. He has become a resilient person who wants growth. But again, he's not always understanding when he's made fun of or disrespected, and this caused a bit of an issue in the classroom. My class participation through the years, for background, I was able to do live observation. I was able to do video review, so we were able to have a camera in the room. And then I was actually able to do live online observations, including Zoom. Great lengths were gone to ensure the privacy of all the students in every classroom he was in, but still allow for video or live observation online, etc., for the best interests of our student. And I'll continue to talk about that through this presentation and the efforts everyone made to ensure this could take place. To protect the privacy of the students in his classrooms and to keep the past agreement with the schools that we made on the limitation of the use of the video, we cannot show the video today. So I will be describing what we saw on video in this particular issue that we resolved. In this particular example, I was asked to observe for alleged or potential bullying. The aides reported a behavior by one of the students that was concerning, but yet there was uncertainty about it. Remembering we're not videotaping every day, we're doing that when we need to set new goals, that type of thing. So they had seen something, but it was brief, not quite sure what it was they were seeing. They were concerned. The behavior was discussed with me. I'd been, again, with a child for some time, observing in the classroom as a potential concern, and it was agreed I would look at the video and I would see what I saw. The thing was that it wasn't going to be set up. So we just made sure we videotaped regularly, and then I would look at video and see if I saw what they were seeing. So that part, we couldn't make anything happen. But indeed, when I watched video, I did see what they were talking about. The student in question, the student who was doing this, was not identified to me. So I didn't even know who I was looking for. They were very careful about the other student's identity with me, as I wanted them to be and as was agreed with the school and the parents. The student's identity was not disclosed at all. So I didn't even know who I was looking for. I just knew what I should be on the lookout for. And I did it as part of my regular review of the classroom. The issue was described to me in full, so I could be mindful if I might see it. Here was the issue at hand. The student would do an extreme imitation. I'll give you the example in a moment, in order to get our student to imitate him. So he would do something and our student would imitate him. Well, I couldn't go to this classroom in person, so I had to be very mindful about watching the video, because I watched the video on a schedule and I set goals for the classroom with the aides, but I had to be mindful about what they told me. And of course, we did all this in a short period of time, but I was watching video regularly anyway. Again, the school would allow this videotaping if we met the requirements. So we attained permission every single year, and this is something I wanted to be sure to point out in this, that we attained permission from the parents in the class every year through signature, making agreements with the school. And this was through the years, because he went to different schools, he moved, but whatever the stipulations were, we agreed, we figured out how to do it, and we attained the permission of parents. One of the things that's beautiful about this process is we're protecting the integrity of the other students, but we're also trying to all work together for the best of our student that we're focused on. So I was sent the video by the aide who was going to class with the student. At this point, the student was operating independently in the class, but the aide would come and go. My video review of the student was limited to independent class time. And in fact, the aide left on camera, and it wasn't long after that that I saw what they were talking about. So it's important to know, before I discuss this, that the student, our student, was vigilant about watching his classmates in order to know what he was supposed to do. We have to appreciate where he came from. As a 2-year-old, he could not imitate anything, and it took a long time for him to learn to fluently imitate, and his parents worked very hard using an RDI approach to teach him this developmentally, and he developed the skill very well. It became very useful to him, and one of the ways he internalized and used it was to observe other people and know what to do when people were leaving. His understanding of language was a struggle for him. He understood some things, he didn't understand others, so he honed this skill once he had it. It was such a strong drive in him, though, that sometimes he would imitate things that he should not imitate. Examples that I've seen given are this, or say, teachers say, you know, whose birthday is this month? And 3 of the students raise their hand. Well, our student would raise his hand too. So he didn't understand the question that particular year. So he would sometimes think he should imitate when he should not. That's where our problem came in. Here's what I observed. When I was looking at the video that I received, and by the way, they did not send me this video for this reason. This was just, here's your video to set goals, etc. But I was mindful about what they told me recently. The class was asked to sit in a circle, and the teacher was facilitating a discussion. It was a pretty big class, but the classroom was big, so the circle was pretty wide. Our student, the student I'd known for so long, was at the other end of the circle. I could see him clearly, but he was far from me. He sat respectfully and he was listening. Due to language issues, he was not able to participate, but he always clearly enjoyed just being there and being a part. Remember, this is a classroom of students that are his peers, but they are what the school called typically developing. So this school, it should be noted, was an inclusion school. So there were lots of students who had vulnerabilities, who were in classrooms, different ages, with students, and it was a really nice situation the school had arranged for them. So the student we were concerned about, remembering I didn't know that this was the student, his back was to me. So I observe a video and he taps the neighbor next to him. She looks over at him and he casually points to our students, extremely casual. Remember, the teacher is facilitating discussion. He says something to her and he goes into a very pronounced stretch. So much like if you were getting up out of the bed. Our student sitting across the circle from him saw him immediately and went into a stretch. Came the extra concerning moment. The student with his back to me began to giggle and looked and pointed, getting the attention of the student next to him. I need to note that the student next to him looked, kind of nodded her head, and did not participate, was not interested in that interaction. We did not have any issue with the student who was nudged. So as I observed this, I was concerned. I did the video analysis. I particularly spotlighted the student, getting the other student's attention to see what he could get our student to do. Then I talked to the aides, and they shared with me and said that this was a very friendly student, which I'm going to continue to remind us with our student. They liked how he was with our student, in fact, because he was kind to him. But even so, I had to be somewhat assertive. And I communicated to the aides that this was just not acceptable. At best, it was mocking our student. At worst, it intended to hurt him. Either way, it had to be stopped. The particular aide that had been there that day agreed with me that this was a type of indirect bullying. Whatever the intent, it had to be stopped. I also noted that it began when the aide left the classroom, and that was significant to us. Now, we don't want to blow an incident like this out of proportion, but we want to act now to prevent it in the future and to prevent any escalation. So again, our video reviews are very timely. These things are not on a big delay schedule. So we're hearing, we're acting, we're working as a team. So some of my self-queries before and after, I was thinking about it. What were the intentions? Was it an attempt to just connect? Was it the attention seeking on the part of the student doing it? Were the aides seeing what they thought they were seeing? The list of self-queries before I went into this was really long, and I wanted to get them answered. I reported the observation to the aide and to the parents. The aide discussed it with the school. So we had a plan for how we would work together. We opted for with the student. It wasn't completely our decision, so it certainly wasn't mine. The aide talked to me about it and decided the best course was to go to the school and have them choose a person to talk to the student. Previous to me, again, the aides had told me the student was nice and even friendly, and they really were challenged to believe it had a poor intent. Irregardless, I agreed with the solution and it needed to happen immediately. So, of course, the parents were told, and they were pleased with the solution. In the school, or particularly the school, but everyone needed to be involved in the solution. And the recommended conversation about the inappropriateness of this interaction and an explanation of that was to be had by the school. So the aide went to the appropriate officials. She knew who to talk to. They gave the student a small talk about why this was inappropriate, and it was resolved. These are never easy things to talk about. One doesn't like to see a student being dealt with that way by another student. On the other hand, we all had a very measured approach, but a timely approach to resolve it. And I think that was key. So thoughts, video analyzing was important. I think the training of the aides, and one of the things they were trained in is RDI and understanding creating a positive environment, relationships, a relationship environment, really caused them to have some good and compassionate ways of thinking about this. The teachers were so willing to help. Everyone worked together to ensure we had video that I could view. The parents of the classmates worked for this. We worked to meet the requirements. So working together to think about what is best for the individual student. So I think these tools for solution are important. We can learn from them or from them. Support everyone involved, and everyone support each other. Administration, teachers, aides, and parents. Everyone working together, and outside help. So in my case, I'm referred in to help with school. Reliable reports of aides, a good working relationship with whoever's referred in or whoever's helping. In that case, it was me. Ability to video or have live Zoom, whatever the case may be, whatever's best. I like video because it's not what I say I observed. I can go back and show it. A consistent plan. So a consistent plan for working together, regular meetings, regular just checking on our plan can be put into place. Ensuring everyone's on the same page is so important, the whole team, and really putting a high regard for the integrity of all individuals involved, the students, the child you're focused on, the teachers, the aides, the school, the other students' parents. Everyone's integrity is considered, and considering the individual nature of each person involved. Sometimes you say these things and everyone realizes there's a lot of energy involved with that, but it's so worthwhile. Finally, just in case anyone wondered, in RDI, we do have a goal which addresses knowing when and when not to imitate. Many of our students come challenged in imitation, and so that's something that we work on. But at some point, we may, not always, but sometimes do have to work on when we imitate and when we don't. Something we all had to learn developmentally. You can remember being in school when the teacher would say, who knows the answer to such and such? And some hands would go up and she'd call on one student. They'd say, I don't know what was the question. I just saw everybody raise their hand. So this is something children go through developmentally. But what happened with our student, and does happen, is he really wasn't sure when he was supposed to raise his hand. So we've worked with him on that, but we do have to review it, because he still has to go so much on observational learning because of his language issues, which continue to improve, and he's really working on that. We have to continue to work with him on how to make that discrimination. Working together, having the opportunity to review video, and everyone working together for the child's interest and respecting the integrity of all.